Now we watch why we started this to begin with.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Power is so scary. Like that kind of power. The power and also the influence and sort of cronyism, like being deeply attached to the criminal justice system for many, many years over there, being respected and being a part of this investigative world where they're all the cops and they're all just like they know each other and they look out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they didn't change their story once they had all the DNA evidence of that Rudy guy, and then it was all over it. They didn't go, okay, we've made a mistake, and instead they doubled down. And not only that, but didn't go after him for the murder.
Well, they did.
But they didn't convict him of the murder, I should say.
So what
did they convict him of?
So they convicted him of her rape because it was only his DNA that was found inside of her body. And they convicted him of conspiracy to commit murder. So basically,
So did this dude like know her at all, or like he just randomly broke into her house and raped her? Like, I don't understand. That documentary was so bad. She dated him. They said the break-in was staged. That's what I have read. Yeah, the break-in looked staged because the rock was too big to go through the window. We totally skipped that part. They brought it up once and then never again. There was a rock to make it look like it was a break-in. Stage Pepega? No, but the rock was too big to go through the window. They mentioned it one time.
basically taking part in a murder, but not being the one to actually plunge the knife.
But this was a fabrication by this is the prosecutor's idea that he was there with Raffaele. And
okay, I can't believe, don't get mad at me, but who took the shit? Like, whose poopy was it in the bathroom? And then they didn't like actually flush it. So it was Rudy? Like, they actually didn't, right? Wasn't that some of the first evidence that it couldn't have been a one-man homicide? Yeah, but like they never went back to it.
And that you guys held her down.
Yes. So they say that the scenario that my prosecutor painted, and he painted a few different scenarios because he couldn't really, like, his imagination was going wild and there wasn't a lot of actual, obviously there wasn't any evidence to support any of them, but he kept thinking, okay, it's the day after Halloween, so maybe it's a satanic sex ritual. We know that there's some kind of sex thing involved. We know that Amanda is we know that Amanda has sex with people, so she's probably a sexually obsessed person, and Meredith looked down on her for being a sexually obsessed person. So what is likely to have happened in his brain is that I was hanging out with Raffaele and Rudy. Meredith comes home. She starts scolding me for my bad morals, and then I'm like, you know what, bitch? We're going to rape you and kill you. That's his scenario. And it's so unfortunate on so many levels because it says more about him than it says about anyone else that he would imagine that that's just how people react to each other. And
this was not his initial idea, though, right? Was this his initial idea?
I mean, his initial idea was that I was involved somehow. He didn't know how, but he thought that I was involved somehow. I knew something. I was covering up for someone. And that's why he interrogated me for 53 hours over 5 days.
Which is really scary that they can do that, right? It's like you can get someone to say a lot of things if you can get alone with them in a room and scare the fuck out of them and just torture them.
Well, I'm glad you know that because like a lot of people don't know that.
You can get people to crack.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's...
People crack when they get pulled over by the cops for speeding.
Oh, yeah.
People crack for all kinds of things. They crack if they have a joint in their glove box.
Mm-hmm.
People crack.
Will Joe Rogan ask why she blamed the innocent black man? Will he push that point, you think?
Yeah.
You know, when authority is scaring you, coming
sense.
down on you, and in your case, actually hit you a couple times. And you're 20.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I was 20.
Your brain isn't even fully formed.
My brain isn't fully formed. My friend had just been murdered. I was alone in a foreign country, and people who I was entrusting my life and safety to were screaming at me that I was wrong, that
Maybe because black men are criminals at a proportionally higher rate than Italian women. Okay. That's incredible. Like maybe because first of all, that's not how you do like that's called racial profiling, you fucking idiot. It's literally not how you're supposed to do it. It's racist. Also, she's not even Italian. And also, you know, again, you just literally said maybe I'm racist. Like let me rephrase that for you. You basically said maybe I'm fucking racist and automatically assume black people do it. Okay? That's all you said. Like maybe amongst other racist idiots, that's a reasonable argument to make, but like normal people will, you know, hopefully not see that. In the same way, and they'll recognize it for how fucking stupid and racist that is. Having said that, of course, like him having sex with her, I don't know if it was consensual or not, or having a history of break-ins. That's not great. That does definitely at least like create more suspicion that he was at least involved if it was not a one-person job.
I was never going to see my family again. That I was.
A lot of articles explaining his arrest found a single bloody palm print from him under her pillow that was under her dead body. So I guess that's why. Yeah, he said he did it because he wanted to like, he saw that she was dying and tried to like fucking save her or something and then ran away because he got scared.
Was super traumatized that I had seen something so horrible that I must have just completely blocked it out. And here's a scenario that would explain that. Look, you have a text message from your boss, Patrick Lumumba.
The chatter was referencing the innocent black man. What? That doesn't mean anything. That chatter was still being racist, man. You know that, right? Like,
you must have met him that night. You must have seen him murder Meredith. Just admit it. Just admit it. Remember.
My last is a sub, man. Sorry to not be able to sub anymore. Still love you and your content. You taught me a lot. Okay, dude, are you all right? Like,
kept telling me, like, the gross thing about it was they kept telling me to remember. They didn't even tell me to, like, admit it. They were telling me that I just couldn't remember it. And I had to remember, or else I was never going to see my family again.
Jesus. So were you thinking that you just had to tell them whatever they wanted to hear just so you could get out of there?
Honestly, I started to question.
guys, don't say fuck that chatter. You don't know what his situation is. I don't know. It's okay, man. Like,
My own
you know, all my content is free, right? Like, you don't have to subscribe. Like, I don't know.
Sanity. I started to believe them that I must have witnessed something horrible, and I just couldn't remember it, and that's the only explanation for why they would treat me that way.
How long did that take before you think you started questioning your sanity?
So I was, a few hours into that final interrogation that was in the middle of the night. I was not prepared to be interrogated at all because honestly, they didn't even call me in that night. They called my boyfriend, Raffaele, but I was staying with him and I was afraid to be alone at home because a murder was on the loose. And so I went with him and I was waiting in the lobby, like by the elevator, waiting for him to come out from questioning. And then they brought
Wait, she explained why she blamed the black dude?
I was, a few hours into that final interrogation that was in the middle of the night. I was not prepared to be interrogated at all because honestly, they didn't even call me in that night. They called my boyfriend, Raffaele, but I was staying with him and I was afraid to be alone at home because a murder was on the loose. And so I went with him and I was waiting in the lobby, like by the elevator, waiting for him to come out from questioning. And then they brought me in and just went on and on and on. And so I cracked eventually. So the thing that cracked me too was they brought in an interpreter, right? Someone who actually spoke English, because for a long time I was just talking to people in Italian and I was worried that I wasn't even comprehensible. I thought that the reason why they were yelling at me was because I was doing something wrong. Like I just wasn't explaining myself correctly. And then
how fluent were you fluent? Were you at the
I
time?
mean, I had been there for like 5 weeks. So I was...
And you took Italian before?
I had taken Italian for a year before. So I was about as fluent as... I like to say I had about the fluency of a 10-year-old, but I think that that's even generous because I could speak in certain tenses. My vocabulary was totally limited, though. So there were limited things that I actually had the words to say. And I remember even when I... shortly after I was interrogated and signed the statements that they had written up for me, they finally stopped yelling at me. They left me alone. I had a moment to just like be off to the side, quiet to myself. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Everything is wrong. This is all wrong. I need to tell them that it's all wrong. And I can't just go up in front of a jury right now and say, this is the person who did it. I saw him do it. Like, I don't actually remember that. And I told them, I need to tell you. And they were like, no, you'll remember. Don't worry about it. Like, we don't need to talk anymore. You'll remember. Just stay over there and keep remembering. And I was like, no, I'm not remembering. And eventually I asked them, like, please give me a piece of paper because they weren't listening to me. So I wrote on this piece of paper, I'm so confused. They were yelling at me. Like, I can't actually testify to this. And I gave it to them and I was like, here's a gift, because I didn't have the word for like, here's my recantation.
Right.
I was just like, I'm giving this to you. I need you to hear me. And they were like, okay, whatever. We're taking you to jail. Actually, they didn't even tell me they were taking me to jail. They were telling me that I was being taken to a holding place for my own protection and that I was an important witness.
So they didn't tell you that you were being taken to jail because you were one of the people they were accusing?
No, I was already in prison before I was ever actually told you are suspected for the killing of Meredith Kircher. I was already in prison.
How long had you known this Meredith girl for?
A few weeks.
And you'd met her just because you'd all moved there at the same time?
Yeah.
And you were sharing a place together?
Yeah, so she had moved in before me, but it was basically there were two...
Just like the most Redditor energy. She looks to the left a lot when answering a question. Body language says she's not honest. Hasan is developing stage of a pink eye. Like... Yeah, dude. That's what's going on. You got me. No, I don't. But what is weird is like every time I bend forward, fucking shit comes out of my nose. It's like not snot though. And when I pushed back on my eye a little bit, like the same thing. I don't know what it is. I think it's like sinus infection or something. It's like when you have a runny nose, but it's not snot. That's caca right there. Okay, dude. Ear ducts can get clogged from allergies, making them smaller, and then can cause those weird nose liquid runs. I mean, I've never had allergies before, but I'm 30, so maybe I do now. I'm not going to get a neti pot. Neti pots are dangerous.
Rooms to
Shut the
let
fuck up.
in this little house that was right next to the university, and we both happened to pick a flyer.
And did you guys hang out a lot? Did you know her well? Was she a good friend, or was she just someone you lived with?
She was like a budding friend. Like, we definitely hung out. We would go to pizza together. I remember we went to like, there's this famous chocolate festival that's in Perugia where they would like take huge refrigerator-sized blocks of chocolate and like carve them, which was super cool. I'm very into that. And we would go and check that out together. But we weren't like the best of friends. Like, she had a friend group of other young women from Great Britain that she hung out with a lot more than she hung out with me. But that isn't to say that we didn't go out dancing together or go out to dinner together. We definitely did that.
The moment you found out that she had been murdered, what was that like?
It's confusing because I knew that something was wrong as soon as I came home and I found that there was a window broken into and Meredith wasn't answering her phone. But I didn't understand what was wrong. I didn't know. And when the police came in and broke down her door and everyone started screaming, I didn't see into her room. I never actually saw her body. And so I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if that was Meredith in the room. In fact, I remember at the first thing that Philomena, one of my roommates, started yelling was, "A foot, a foot." And I was like, oh my God, is there like a severed foot in Meredith's room? Like, I don't know what's going on. Philomena is hysterical, and I don't know what's going on. Everyone's yelling in Italian, speaking really quickly. I don't understand. So I actually was relying on Raffaele to translate for me, like, what is going on? He was like, I don't know. Let me figure it out. And we were all like shoved out of the house. And finally someone is like,
wait, so there were multiple people living in that house, not just them two? Bro, this is like, I mean, that fucking documentary was so bad. Oh my God. It literally made me like, I know less about the case now. What is your scenario, chat? Did she order Gay to rape and kill her like Hitler or some shit? You guys make no sense. Hasan Piker, she didn't do it. I mean, there are numerous scenarios. Like, first of all, there could have been like other roommates. I don't even know what the fuck. I didn't even know there were other roommates until now. I'm so fucking confused. I don't know why you are making it seem like, you know, it's a 100% certainty.
Like, it's Meredith, and she's dead. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was outside of the house that someone was telling me her body was in there. And someone told me that there was all this blood. I remember not actually knowing like how she had died until I went to the police office and I asked. I was like being questioned, and one of the police officers was like, click. And so like I sort of learned over the course of that day the details of it.
Son is such a gop, bro. What the fuck is a gop, bro? He gives no shit about the woman's perspective of her time. Just wants to see her get a conviction. Then you look at his nails and everything makes sense. Dude, what's going on with the chat today, dude? Respond to this? Here, there you go.
But I didn't fully understand like what had really happened. Like, as far as I knew, you know, I mean, it was clear that there was a break-in. Like, the window had been broken into. It was Philomena's room. All of her stuff was all over the place. It wasn't clear to me what had happened, though. And it wasn't until over the course of that whole day and piecing together what I was hearing that I understood the gravity of the situation, that she had been sexually assaulted, that she had been stabbed to death, that it was a struggle. It was all like, I remember the first thought, and it's a guilty thought that I had. I remember thinking, thank God I wasn't home, because that could have been me. And a part of me, like, over time felt really guilty about that thought, because I thought maybe if I was home and there had been two of us, maybe the outcome would have been different. Maybe we would have been able to fend him off together. But here's, you know, an athletic guy wielding a knife. I'm not sure that we would have. And maybe I would have been dead too. So it's kind of a thought that comes back to mind a lot when I think about this, and how fortuitous it was that I just happened to be in this like brand new romance and hanging out with my new boyfriend all the time, every waking moment that I could. And that's what happened.
It's hard for me to imagine the jolt of a 20-year-old life where you are overseas, going to school, involved in this new romantic relationship, and then out of nowhere, boom, you're a suspect in a murder.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I was a suspect. It's like the boom for me was someone close to me just died, and that could have been me. And now what?
And then it was all those things that piled on, they kept piling on.
Yeah. And then, you know, I'm in jail. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is all just a horrible misunderstanding. Like, I'm sure they're going to figure it out sometime. I remember like the first 2 years of my imprisonment, I was convinced that it was all just a big misunderstanding and somebody would figure it out. And I was convinced.
What do you mean evidence against Amanda? There's evidence against her. I mean, there isn't really like established motive, but the evidence is that like there was fucking the victim's blood on the knife that on the knife that they suspected was used as the murder weapon, and Amanda's DNA was on it, and it was cleaned off, and it was at like the boyfriend's house. Her bloody footsteps were all around the house too. Like the thing was like completely contaminated. Rudy was a known burglar and had been arrested in multiple Italian cities. I'm not even saying that like Rudy is not sus. He definitely is too. Like I said, if I had never fucking heard from her or had seen the way she operated, like I would never in a million years even think she's suspicious. But like she's her own biggest enemy. And I need to read more about it and like maybe watch another fucking documentary that was better than whatever the fuck we watched. Like it's very suspicious. Like there's a bloody footstep. Like her naked bloody footstep is in the apartment, but she says she doesn't even see the body. Like a lot of their blood is mixed in all over the fucking house. Also, the people that keep saying like Rudy murdered her. Like I'm pretty sure Rudy was neighbors with them and was friends with them. So, there's like weird ass evidence on every side of the fucking equation. Like, I like that we circled around back to like, it was a weird sex game. Like, I like that, when you look at all of the information, you're like, maybe it was a fucking weird sex game. Who knows? Not true, her footprint. Not her footprint. Yeah, I mean, we all know the real fucking criminal in this is the Italian police, okay? Like, the biggest crimers in this entire case is the Italian prosecution and police, okay? I think we can all agree on that. They fucking botched this so bad. They basically fucking tortured her. Got a false confession out of her and then went and then arrested some random fucking black dude off that false confession. Detained him for 2 weeks while she was running around. And then came back 45 days later and like found key pieces of evidence. Like they're fucking, this will help. You want me to go to the Amanda Knox Reddit, dude? Are you psychotic? Reddit is the last place I should go to whenever there's like an unsolved mystery, okay? Reddit is the equivalent of asking my chat for advice, which I do regularly, and it's really stupid of me to do so.
I was convinced that there was no possible way that people could actually believe that I was involved. Like even just not because it's me, but because there wasn't any evidence there. Like it was so patently obvious to me that like this idea of me, this Foxy Noxy character that was being constructed in the courtroom, this Luciferina, like this idea of a person was obviously made up. It was so obvious to me. And yet. It didn't
seem like the Italian media just ran with it though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the big sort of regrets that especially my family had, was at the very beginning they were advised to not speak to the media at all because they were just going to make a field day of it. There was, in the same way that there was never going to, once I was accused, there was never going to be anything that I could do to prove my innocence in the eyes of people. My lawyers were also worried that there was nothing my family could say, but that would not be twisted and turned into something that would just further fuel the scandal mongering. And what that meant was there was a void. There was a void in which who I was, my very identity, could be constructed out of total fantasy. That was the only thing the only reason why it was being constructed was to further this scandal and to sell more papers. Like that was the reason why it wasn't the public interest of the story that kept the Sun in Britain reporting on this case. Like they were reporting on whether or not I ate pizza, like the days leading up to my arrest. Like
it's just selling papers.
It's just selling papers.
Watch the
No, she never. I don't think she apologized for blaming the black dude. Anyway, love you all, and I will see you tomorrow, okay?
Just begun. There he is again. Hasan is streaming.
There's about to be a war in Melbourne.
Hasan is streaming.
You never shouted out the shit camp merch. We also vote for you.
Hasan is streaming.
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
Reviewing
all right,
the
bye guys.
PO box, Uncle Euchre's face. Sudden discord agitprop, gray names take on race. Tiny Bernie Sanders, LGBTQ Air Force. The whole left at your fingertips, and Anya out your door. The H3 Crowder debate, the Young Turks online show. 3 full fucking years of this, and plenty more to go. 90-day fiance, talks of champagne bourgeoisie. A Trump rally live reaction, a mass riot in DC. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming.